Today I've been given the assignment by Bolpe, my wife, to cut a 7mm top color, internally flawless emerald using a Portuguese cut. We don't cut a lot of lab-created gemstone rough with Bolpe's. The one exception is emerald. And that's because in nature, emerald almost always has inclusions in it, it has fractures in it, where the color is lighter. Finding affordable top color, internally flawless emerald rough is almost impossible. So basically it would cost a small fortune to get a big, beautiful, vivid green, internally flawless emerald. So however, there is an alternative. A wonderful company named Chatham has been creating gemstones in a laboratory since the early 1900s. The founder, Carol Chatham, started experimenting on growing gemstones in a laboratory in the 1920s. He was the pioneer of lab-grown gemstones. Chatham doesn't make gems. They control the environment so the emerald crystals can grow naturally. They have the same physical, chemical, and optical properties as mined emerald. Alright, so we have our lab-created Chatham emerald mounted to the dop and ready to start preforming. I think we'll start with a 600 grit topper from High Tech. And we'll put our master lap down as backing for it. We're going to cut the girdle, so we'll go to the flattest side first, and our index that's close enough to that, because that way we know we're going to grind down at least to this level to start with. Now we'll preform the first row, and the first row the index is set at 96 with an angle of 48 degrees. So we set the hard stop on the Ultra Tec, then each facet will be cut to exactly 48 degrees. Preformed, then we went around the girdle and the pavilion with our 1200 diamond crystallite solid steel disc, and now we're using our well-worn crystallite 1200 diamond steel lap. When your 1200 is worn out, it's still a very, very good lap to have because that'll leave a very smooth pre-polish. Just need to take a little bit off from what the 1200 crystallite lap did. It left some scratches, and the well-worn disc will clean those right up. Alright, so we're ready to polish the girdle, and today I'll use the Ultra Laps cerium oxide. These are disposable laps. I get them from Ultra Tec. Since we already have the girdle pre-polished, it's not taking very much at all to put that final polish on it. We just finished polishing the pavilion, or bottom part of our Chatham lab-created emerald. We'll spin dry the lap. We'll take the our emerald out of the Ultra Tec machine. See the pavilion's all polished. Now what we're going to do is transfer the pavilion dop to a cone-shaped dop and glue it, and then we'll remove the original dop and we'll come back and cut the crown. So to do that we use our transfer jig. The Ultra Tec dops are cut at an angle of 45 degrees so that when you stick them in the Ultra Tec machine they're all lined up. They'll be lined up at 96 degrees. So we've tightened up the bottom dop. The top dop is fairly tight, snug, but can still move. So we'll put a drop. We're going to use our Loctite 404 super glue today because I want to finish this project tomorrow. And if I use the two-part epoxy, it's not going to be set up enough tomorrow, and I'll risk the stone slipping. So we're going to use super glue today. You just need to put one drop, and then gently push the top part down. Tighten it up. Make sure the super glue has gotten where you want it to go. It sets up very quickly. So make sure it is touching the dop, it is touching the stone. But when it sets up, it will have a good adhesive connection. And And then after that sets up, tomorrow we'll remove the top with heat, and we'll be ready to start cutting the crown. Okay, so we've transferred our Chatham Emerald from the pavilion. Now we're going to work on the crown, or the top half of the stone. We're going to cut the 96 index, and the 96 is just a flat facet right there. So we bring it down on top of our tool here, which is a flat edge, sitting on the master lap. And then when you bring the emerald down, you can look with your loupe and you can watch it touch that flat edge. And you can see that the 96 index, that flat facet, is just hitting that flat edge perfectly. So we're perfectly aligned. Is going to be at 42 degrees at the 96 index. We set our index to 42 degrees, make a fine adjustment. Then we decide which lap we're going to use. For the first cuts, the preforming, I think a 600 grit popper. And take a look at it to make sure that it's making a nice level cut. Right here is right across that facet, nice and level. That means we're aligned properly. And that cut brought us down a little bit. We want to go all the way down to 0.3 millimeters, and that leaves us a 0.3 millimeter girdle all the way around the stone. So now we'll continue cutting the crown. I'll use a 600 to rough it in. Then I'll go to the 1200 crystal light. Then I'll switch to the lightning laps 3000, maybe the 8000 if I need it, and then on to the Spectra Ultra Laps for a polish, and then we'll be ready to polish the crown. Okay, we've just finished cutting our Chatham Emerald with a 1200 crystal light diamond lap, and now we're going to use the 3000 topper from Lightning Laps. These are delights. Our first cut's at an angle of 42 degrees, so we make sure our dial indicator is set to 42 degrees, and just down to cut just a little bit to get rid of the scratches caused by the 1200. The Crystal Light Diamond 1200 that we used is still fairly new, so it leaves deeper scratches than it will once it's more worn. You can actually see that the facet is a lot more green than the other facets, meaning it's ready for the polish after we use the 3000. Okay, we've finished the first row of facets on the crown. Now the next row of facets are at a 38 degree angle instead of a 42. So we set our dial indicator to 38. That'll be the hard stop on the next row of facets. Now, as we use the 3000, it took a little bit of the rough off. So for the next row, we need to bring them down until the point just touches the top of the girdle. So we could go back to the 1200 diamond laps, but instead I'll use the lightning lap 1200. It's a lot finer of a 1200, and we don't have to move the facets much. So this will move the facets down, and there will be much smaller scratches for us to remove with the 3000. So we just move our armature down until the color gemstone is just touching the lap. You can see when the dial indicator moves. Right there. So we bring it up above the 38 so we can bring it down. And then we cut the next tier, moving the facet down. For this, I'll bring the speed up to about 550 RPMs. Check often so that you don't overcut the facet. You just want to move it down until it touches the girdle. Once you get your first facet set, all the rest are lined up already. We finished polishing all of the facets on the crown. So now we're going to cut the table. The way we do that is we put the dial indicator at 45 degrees, and then we use our table adapter. This is a 45 degree angle which goes on the index, and the 45 degree set index and the 45 degree angle give us a 90 degree, a perfectly flat surface to cut our crown. So our table adapter here makes sure that we've got the table perfectly flat. I mean, it's a big surface and we're just going to cut a small table. So I'm going to make sure our indicator's at 45 degrees. we'll use our 1200 grit Crystalite solid steel lap. Then table's aligned, and we're going to cut the table down until it reaches the V of our third row of facets. Okay, we've got our 1200 grit lightning lap set up. All we're going to do is make smaller and smaller scratches. We're just cleaning up the scratches from the previous lap. The table is the largest facet on the stone generally, so I spend the most amount of time polishing it, and it's the most important facet because that's the one that you're going to see. Okay, we used the 3000 Diamond Grit Dynalap lights, and then we went back to our cerium oxide Ultra Lap to put the final polish on the table. The way you check, when I'm looking at the facet, I move it till the light reflects right back, so you get a bright flash of light in your eye. And then you can move it just a hair, and if there's any scratches, you'll see them. Our stone is done. If you have any questions about anything I've done, just put them in the comments below. I'll be glad to answer them for you.